Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Today, I have for you my Game Week 36 transfer plans, accompanied by the usual Game Week review, of course. This transfer plans will be probably slightly longer than the last one or the last few, given that there are two slides as a result of there being so many different options and routes to them that I must cover. It's refreshing to bring you this transfer plans on a green arrow because that hasn't been the case much over the last 12 game weeks or so, the last 3 months, but that looks to have changed. And that's about it. So if you haven't enjoyed the content around here, then I would really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button, especially if you are one of the thousands of people who watch regularly but have not done so. And equally, drop a like on the video if you enjoy it. Without anything else needing to be said, let's get into it. Usually I have two separate sections for the goalkeepers and the defenders. However, given how closely associated the variables are with both Raya and Kiwior, and in comparison to like Ezri Konsa, and in my case I don't have Martinez, but some of you will, I thought I would just group them together. Now, on one hand, I think I might have been overly bullish on the Arsenal defence. I'm not too displeased about my assessment of the Aston Villa defence. I think with a little bit more luck / being a little bit more clinical in the final third, but also luck, Fulham could have got a goal at Villa Park. But I do think I may have underestimated or overestimated the Arsenal defence as opposed to underestimating the Bournemouth attack. Then on the flip side, you could say that Arsenal played pretty well for the first 60, 65 minutes. Yeah, they gave up a few half opportunities in the first half, aside from the good one that Evanilson had. But in general, the game was fairly under control. But overall, if I'm to take a view, I personally think that it was more my fault than not. And I think my assessment of the Arsenal defence was a little bit overly bullish because they have had this tendency to concede goals and just have sloppy moments in games as of late. And obviously, like, you expected some form of rotation and not like a fully 100% fit Arsenal side. But to be fair, apart from Yuri and Timber, there wasn't much difference from a fully fit Arsenal side. So, like I said, overall, I think it's more my fault than not. So I take responsibility from it and just something I'll learn from. Whether it was warranting of a 5-point swing between Kiwior and Konsa, to be fair, I think it was fair enough in the end. Moving on to the others, obviously both Neco and Munoz play tomorrow, so there's not too much to discuss there. Gvardiol, 8-pointer, doesn't really matter in terms of him because obviously everyone owns him. But people do own De Bruyne, who I don't, so clean sheet point there, and Diaz. So for my rank specifically, it would have been better if he conceded. And Wolves got quite unlucky, right? Obviously, Nori hit the post, he had one cleared off the line, but the one in particular that I actually couldn't believe they messed up was the Bellegarde one, where he should have just slipped Manetzi in or squared it to him, and it should have been 1-0. But it wasn't to be, and I would take the 8-pointer from him. Pretty happy, though, still, to at least have started one of the Arsenal defence over both Areola and Konsa. I guess it should have just been Konsa to start. And now we can move on to the midfield, which certainly saw some success. We will start with another M, and that is the mic, because the quality of sound seems a lot better. And not only better when I'm in my usual sitting position, my quite strict sitting position that I had to be for the old mic, but also when I slightly deviate and at different angles. So that is quite the pleasure, because I don't have to sit in such a strict fashion. And I hope it makes for a better viewing experience. Moving on to the successful midfield, Salah, who was not captained, was over 100%, and therefore a blank was good, and he blanked. And to be fair, I thought Liverpool got a bit unlucky. I think on another day, Núñez takes that chance, and Salah gets an assist, and Conor Bradley doesn't underhit his pass, and Chalobah doesn't step to intercept it, and so on and so on. But it just kind of seemed like it wasn't their day. We were better than them, and they were just a bit unlucky. He was a bit unlucky. And when all of that comes together, it's pretty hard to get returns, especially when half your team had probably been on the boost midweek, resulting of you lot winning the title. And I felt like they really kind of did give us 3 points. Like, yeah, we played well, but they didn't exactly make it too difficult for us. That helped. Morgan Rogers, even though it was only a 3-pointer, pretty decent considering the low scores this game week. For example, just look at Saka and Salah. Should have been more. I personally think they let Marlon off the hook a little bit easy. I think considering the timing of the run and the fact that he gets there ahead of Lona, I think he should do a little bit better. And then Watkins should definitely do better, but, you know, he's helped us so many times in the past. So be it. Saar obviously plays tomorrow, huge differential. And that's one thing about the rank at the moment. Like, yeah, it's only a 2k green arrow at the moment, but Munoz is at 50% of my rank, 51. Saar's at 25, Mateta's at 44. So if any of them halt, if all of them halt, there's really good scope going forward for some big gains. And the ranks are still so tight together, and they have been for all of this season. Just a few points will take you up quite a few number of places. And then the star who we've left till last, or sort of last, we'll discuss Saka after, is Jared Bowen. The fact that he got that goal really early on, I think when you captain the differential and you don't have one of the big hitters, having that goal early on just kind of settles it down quite nicely. You know, now it's kind of unlikely to ever get too bad. The downside protection is really much there, and it's just very much, can you go and access that upside? He wasn't able to entirely. I mean, he gets 2 bonus points as well, right, to separate the swing with Mbeumo, for me at least, to 8 points, because it was just very much one-on-one, and I wouldn't have owned the other one. I owned the other one. That was beneficial. He had I thought the chance in the second half that people were discussing as a big chance missed is harder than people make it out to be, and shouldn't be a big chance miss, because it's a glancing header. James Ward-Prowse has got so much speed on the ball. The angle is almost going into the keeper as opposed to the far corner where he's trying to put it. He's running the other way. It requires such neck strength and timing to go and get it all the way into the corner, given Vicaria's positioning. So I thought it was a good save because it was at a decent height, but it wasn't a great chance, I didn't think. And I really don't expect most people to score that. And he's one of the better headers of the ball in the box. He's very underrated in that aspect. And then the other chance was the volley he had in the second half. Went just wide. I actually thought that went in for a second. Screamed a little bit beforehand. Also shouted, but, you know, it wasn't to be, and I'll take the win. Quite happy with that. And then Saka, I'd say one of his quieter games, right? Like, compared to what I'm used to for Bukayo Saka, he is my favourite player in the league to watch. I'd say Palmer's probably close second when he plays like he did today, and we'll discuss him in transfer plans. Just expect a lot more. I did think that the shot went in when he was on the left-hand side, cut in, but it went just wide of the post. And yeah, quite happy, considering he started and got the minutes he got, for him to be my lowest scoring midfielder, or joint lowest scoring midfielder. And on the bench, it's quite a good thing. Finally, rounding off with the forwards. Very happy with the Marmoush analysis, because he had very little at all, right? Like literally at all. And very happy with the analysis in general, because on another day, was definitely sneak 3 points away from the Etihad, should they maybe take a couple of their chances early on, and then the game develops in a fashion which suits themselves. Mateta obviously hasn't played. Looking forward to the prospect of a 44% owned Jean-Philippe Mateta at home, in good form, I'd say, in good-ish form, or Palace are in good form. He looks sharp enough to me, and Forest, not so much the case for them. And then obviously Isak with another 9-pointer, super reliable this season. And yeah, I appreciate, well, I don't appreciate the point because he was over 100% effective ownership, but nonetheless, I mean, like, it's what it is. It's barely anything, right? I think it was like 100%, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's a roundup of the team. Looking forward to finishing on a green arrow tomorrow, and that's about it. Let's move on to transfer plans, which will certainly have some depth to them today. And congratulations if you are on a big green arrow. I guess you would have probably had to have De Bruyne, some Villa defense, and then maybe a bit of Bowen as well. And if you did, congratulations. Now, I have already filmed this entire video aside from the ending, but I thought I would come back and say, whatever your preferences are for my team in terms of transfer plans, whether you want me to take no hits, 1 hit, 2 hits, 3 hits, and who to captain, let me know in the comments, because at the end of recording this transfer plan section, I just had a brand new idea appear to me, and one that I really liked. And I realized there's probably other routes and other players that I might not be thinking about. Hence, I would love to hear your opinion. Now, depending on what part you go to, I'm going to add this at the start of transfer plans and the end of transfer plans as well. So don't worry, it wasn't an editing mistake. There are many things to discuss this week, simply for the fact that there are many good players on offer. And they include, but are not limited to, Johan Wissa, Bryan Mbeumo, Kevin De Bruyne, Matthias Cunha, and Cole Palmer. And I put those there because they're the 5 that I'm looking at. You will notice that there is no Nottingham Forest coverage there. And that is more so because I don't like their fixture in 38. I expect them to do well in 36, but I still want to see how they bounce back against Palace. And if they don't, all of a sudden, after Leicester get a 2-0 win, they know Vardy's leaving. Maybe they want to send them out well. There's a bit of extra motivation. El Khanous is looking for a move, and so on and so on. And they actually put in a good performance against, or they sense a little bit of weakness from Forest, and they kind of just pounce on it. Why I want to wait till Monday to at least give them any more consideration. Tuesday, I guess. But yeah, at the moment, we've got those 5 on screen. Wissa, Mbeumo, KDB, Cunha, and Palmer. And the fact that I don't own any of those guys at the moment is why they're there. But it's also probably not the greatest thing, I think you would say. But I'm sure it will work out. So how do I go about this? Well, the first thing is I have to decide who exactly it is I want. And that might sound stupid because you might say, okay, that's the first priority in any transfer. But sometimes you are limited in terms of structure, right? Whereas I don't really have that limitation, right? I would have to make more sacrifices for certain players, But for example, like if I wanted Erling Haaland, then I'm not deciding who I want first because my structural limitations just mean that I probably can't buy him. But these guys, I can pretty much get all of them, right? But once that's established, we can go from there. And the first thing to look at would be to look at the guy who's got the highest effective ownership. And not just that, but the guy who's probably on paper got the best prospect for this game week. And that is Bryan Mbeumo. And also to an extent, Yo and Wissa. But more so Mbeumo, because like you saw today, I don't know what Wissa's effective ownership was. I don't imagine it exceeded 40%. I don't even imagine it exceeded 30%, whereas Mbeumo's was over 100 at my rank, and I didn't own him. So that was the first thing that we have to discuss. Do I go for Bryan Mbeumo? Now, I'm going to watch Ipswich against Everton. I'm going to watch like a decent patch of it and essentially just see how they fared, knowing that they got relegated and what type of performance they put in. Obviously, Brentford and Everton aren't exactly like carbon copies of each other, but I would take what similarities they have and try and draw from that and then project and extrapolate and project what is going to happen. You would expect Brentford to get the job done with the fact that they're chasing Europe. But one thing that I'm, I guess, a little bit more keen on, or have become a little bit more keen on recently, I'd say compared to other managers, is things like Brentford haven't done it before. Like they've never got to Europe. Now, one of the big things for me is they've got Thomas Frank, and it's why I place a lot more trust in them than I usually would for a side like this. But they don't have like super experienced players of like winning things. I just wonder how they fare towards the back end of the season. Also, Ipswich might want to send, Ipswich probably do want to send their fans off in quite a good fashion, right? And I don't think they wouldn't look at this fixture and think, oh no, we're definitely not getting 3 points. I think they would fancy themselves for this. So I'm not sold in the narrative that it's 100% a slam dunk, albeit he's the first consideration because the prospects are so good. So I'll do a little bit of analysis, and when we get to everything you need to know, there will be some more depth there. Early thoughts, there are two players in particular that I like, and one is Bryan Mbeumo, and the other is Cole Palmer, who we will discuss on the next slide. So, given the fact that I do like Mbeumo, what will likely be my route to him? I can't afford to go from Sarr or Rodgers straight up, right? Like I'm a good 1.7, 1.8 million off, around that, right? No, yeah, 1.6, 1.7 million off. So then I have to fund that from somewhere, which means I will also have to take a hit because for Mbeumo in particular, and we'll discuss this on the next slide, I don't really want to have to sell Salah or Saka. I'm more willing to do it for the other guys because of the price differences and what I'd have to sacrifice, but I need to find this cash. And the most preferable spot would be Jean-Philippe Mateta, but I would only be able to stretch to 5.6 million, and that's basically what it says on the next slide. And who do I really want at 5.6 million? I actually don't mind Liam Delap. I think he could definitely score against Brentford. Then he's got Leicester afterwards. That doesn't look too bad to me. And then West Ham on the final day, he's got to go there. So I could go there. Like I realistically could go there. The only thing is ceiling's not that high, and he likes to be taken off around 70. So I really want to gamble with those expected minutes. Maybe not. So that's the main thing with Bryan Mbeumo. If I do bring him in, it'll probably be Mateta and then one of Sarr or Rodgers out, and it'll be in place of Mbeumo and Delap for a hit as well. If I bring him in, I think he's quite close to the captaincy armband just because there's not too many players in my team currently that look great for it. Albeit, I do fancy Saka to get something at Anfield. As I expressed on the last slide, and as it says on the bottom of this slide, should I move Sarr/Rodgers to Mbeumo and Mateta to a forward, I would only have 5.6 million available to myself because I don't particularly fancy the sale of Salah to fund Mbeumo in particular, where I have a route and a fairly viable route through Rodgers and Sarr. Rodgers or Sarr and Mateta instead. But let's look at the other guys. If I am to go Palmer, I will likely sell Salah. I think Liverpool looked off it, and I don't think they'll be as off it when Arsenal come to town, but I don't think it's a great game for him. And then after they play a Brighton side that's stylistically pretty good, actually quite a good matchup for them, but they'll really be fighting for it. And then Palace on the last day, I would quite like to have, if I'm being completely honest. But it's Saka's fixture in 38, and the fact that I think he gets such good minutes, and Arsenal really try in 36, in 37, and in 38, whereas I think Liverpool take their foot off the gas a little bit. I think we saw that this week. I'm not sure it will continue to this extent because I doubt the players will keep drinking. And the feeling kind of wears off, at least before 36 and 37, before the celebrations kick in for 38. But I do think Saka's prospects are just better given those external variables. And then likely with KDB, it'll be the same route through Mohamed Salah. Albeit, of all the players here, I think as things stands, De Bruyne is the least likely to come in. I say that with some form of hesitation because I really fancy his prospects against the in 36. And I'm also getting increasingly bullish regarding 37 and 38 because 37 is his last home game. And that's going to be his goodbye. So you give him 90. I feel like the players will try and set him up as well. You try and just give him his fairy tale, right? And when you have that much energy and that much support behind you, for him to go and get returns in a haul, it's just easier from that standpoint. And it at least increases his floor, which makes the hit or the transfer far, far, far safer, ignoring the upside. And yeah, so like even though I'm getting increasingly bullish on him, it's just the fact that the 37 and 38 still on the easiest fixtures in the world. And they could also basically have it wrapped up by the time that they beat Southampton. Should they beat Southampton? I apologize. Because Newcastle play Chelsea, right? And Forest still have to go to Palace, and we'll see what unfolds there. And Matthias Cunha, right? And we're going to get into more into Palmer and Cunha because obviously those are the two we haven't spoken about. I really like Cunha's prospects for the rest of the season. He's just so good at football, like I've said so many times. Bonus points monster. I don't think Brighton are going to do a great job at stopping him. I think Brentford's are really good for you to score goals. Yeah, they'll probably score some goals, but you can score some goals as well. That's the game in 38. And yeah, sure, it's an away one in 37, but it's still like a decent picture. Not too bad. And again, it's Matthias Cunha. So I don't mind it at all. At all. I actually really like it. And in an ideal world, he would be in my team this game week. If I was on a free hit, he would probably still be on my team this game week. Not in 34, but maybe in 36. So that's that. And I really do like him, so that is something to consider as well. And to be fair, like I can get him and someone else, but I feel like in isolation, the hit from Mateta to him, when Mateta's still got quite a bit of time until that FA Cup final, maybe isn't worth it. And then Cole Palmer. Why am I interested in him? Well, I think today was the first time in a long time he looked like the black cloud over his head had departed him. Following that penalty, I think just getting back on the score sheet will be so good from his confidence. But also, more importantly, he just played so well. I wouldn't actually say more importantly, but he just played so well, right? And as you heard on commentary, I'm sure Gary Neville was constantly waxing lyrical about one of the best players in the Premier League. We've got everything to fight for. He feels like he's got a point to prove. I think we could do quite a good job at Newcastle. I think we're going to beat or give Forest a really good game on the last day. No, I think we are going to beat Forest on the last day. And those are the type of games where if he's in form, he'll turn up. And then United in game week 37, they've shown today they really don't care about that, right? Obviously, slightly harsh conditions now because where 37 falls, it's quite far away from the Europa League games either side. But nonetheless, I doubt there'll be like 100% for that. And he'll definitely want to protect some of his players. So I think he could end the season really strong, really high floor, high ceiling asset. He's getting penalties, and we all know how good he can be. That's like kind of my summary of all of the assets. If you had to ask me now, the two I'm really leaning to are Palmer, because I'm just really bullish on him, and Brian Mbeumo as well. So maybe I get both. I could get both by selling Salah. That is a route I hadn't actually considered. I guess I would have had to sell someone for Mbeumo anyway. So yeah, maybe I do that. We shall see. But for now, that is the transfer plans wrapped up. I actually really like the idea I've had at the end. That might be my favorite route of all. Let's see how things unfold on Monday night with Forest. Let's see how things develop during the week. And then by the time we get to everything you need, / team selection, / solving your problems, I will have a more concrete answer for you. Now, I have already filmed this entire video aside from the ending, but I thought I would come back and say, whatever your preferences are for my team in terms of transfer plans, whether you want me to take no hits, 1 hit, 2 hits, 3 hits, and who to captain, let me know in the comments, because at the end of recording this transfer plan section, I just had a brand new idea appear to me and one that I really liked. And I realized there's probably other routes and other players that I might not be thinking about. Hence, I would love to hear your opinion. Now, depending on what part you go to, I'm going to add this at the start of transfer plans and the end of transfer plans as well. So don't worry, it wasn't an editing mistake. And that is all she wrote for this video, ladies and gentlemen. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. One of my favorite transfer plans in a while. And if you did, drop a like on the video and equally subscribe if you have not already and help us get to 8,000 subscribers. That would be absolutely magnificent. I shall see you on Wednesday for everything you need. In the meantime, have a wonderful few days and I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for the support as always. I'll see you very soon. Goodbye.